Good morning, everyone. I've already been in the barn. Brother-in-law isn't here, so it's my job again. Yeah, I like it. I like hanging around the horses and the donkey and the pigs. It's fun. I like it a lot. So I watched. It was really cold last night too. It was below freezing. It was 27 degrees this morning, about 7 o'clock, and it's going to warm up to 50 degrees today. Great. Sunny out there. Beautiful day. Clear sky. Ah, I knew that was going to come up. I should have waited. Let us go and I'm boiling a potato. I saw this video this morning in Afghanistan in the mountains, old couple, and she was cooking, and she made it looked like kind of like a calzone, but not with cheese and all. She pressure cooked potatoes, and then she got some greens, and it looked like some kind of a grass. It looked like grass. I'm sure it wasn't. And it looked like cilantro. Could have been fenugreek. Anyway, and she chopped all that up, and then she mixed it all. She mashed it and mixed it all up, and then that was the filling for the dough she made. And and then they fried it. I think I'm gonna bake mine, but in any case, I went, I cooked some beans yesterday and ended up not making what I thought I was going to make. Then I saw and I thought, well, what am I going to do with those now? So they're all nice and cooked. And I thought, hey, you know what? Instead of just potatoes, I'm going to use those beans as well. And I added some celery, and so I did put some cheese in mine and some onion. Yes, yes, yes. She added some kind of a spice to the dough, and it looked like could have been turmeric, and that's what I added to mine. It looked like it was a yeast dough, but I couldn't quite tell because they don't tell you what she puts into the food. These people live in caves, okay, and but it's clean. It's just so clean. They do everything on the floor with a blanket out or something out to work on. It's just fantastic to watch it. But again, yeah, okay, those people, they live so hard, this and that. First of all, they don't know anything else, okay? But to me, again, that wasn't the thing. In the comments, you could tell, it's, they had their hard life and this. And I'm going, that's what people saw. So I'm watching her cook, going, ooh, that looks good. And on how clean things were, and there's pride in their life. Right? This is how you proudly live, and no matter where you live proudly, right? Yes, and of course, most of them had goats. It looked like as well. Goats they're so easy to keep anywhere, just about anywhere, and they're easy to take care of, and they give so much of themselves. Goats are amazing, I have to tell you guys. Oh, having had them for so many years, I know. Okay, we're in Leviticus 7. That's one thing I'm really grateful for, just these videos where you can watch people in other parts of the country. They work with things, know how they process things, right? A little different that we never think of. There was this one that I watched too. And this lady, Chinese lady, she made candy with watermelon rinds, right? So I watched her do that. Must be really sweet, though. Because there was a lot of brown sugar went into the mix there. But still, just going, watermelon rind. Make that into, oh, well, yeah, Use all of what there is that you can eat on a vegetable or a fruit. That amazes me. Stuff like that just amazes me. And what else did she do there? Oh, and she made like a sweet tea out of with the after she made the candy, right? Put a couple in the glass, and then pour water over it, had some ice in it, and she has a little grandson there, about 5 or 6 years old. He goes, "Grandma, that's a good drink you made." Yes, it's so sweet, just so sweet. Okay, Leviticus 7, the sacrifice of reparation. This is the ritual for the sacrifice of reparation. It is especially holy. It seems like they're all especially holy. I guess if something's holy, it can be more so holy than not. Okay. The victim must be slaughtered where the burnt offerings are slaughtered, and the priest will pour the blood all around the altar. He will then offer all the fat, the tail, the fat covering, the entrails, both kidneys, the fat on them and on the loins, the mass of fat which he will remove from the liver and kidneys. The priest will burn these pieces on the altar as food burned for Yahweh. This is a sacrifice of reparation. Every male who is a priest may eat it. It will be eaten inside the holy place. It is especially holy. Oh, they have to eat too, I guess, I don't know. They eat it. Kind of brings to mind too, now that I watched these videos this morning, and see people and how they use simple ingredients to make just such a good looking food, right? Yes. And then on how, nothing gets wasted. I wonder sometimes too here how to not waste anything yet. The fat doesn't gets all burnt. Okay. All right. So then that wouldn't compute with what I was thinking on, and how one reverently, right, regards food as well, right? It's something we need. Shouldn't waste it at all. Never. Okay. The rights of the priests. As with the sacrifice for sin, so with the sacrifice of reparation, the ritual is the same for both. The offering with which the priest performs the rite of expiation will revert to the priest. The hide of the victim presented by someone to the priest to be offered as a burnt offering will revert to the priest. Every cereal offering baked in the oven, every cereal offering cooked in a pan or on the griddle will revert to the priest who offers it. Does that mean that it becomes their food? Okay. Every cereal offering mixed with oil or dry will revert to all the descendants of Aaron without distinction. Oh. Well, that was his job, so he had to feed his gazillion wives and kids and whatever else too, right? Okay, all right. I'm good with that. The communion sacrifice. Sacrifice with praise. This is the ritual for the communion sacrifice to be offered to Yahweh. If this is offered as a sacrifice with praise, to the latter must be added an offering of unleavened cakes mixed with oil, unleavened wafers spread with oil, and wheaten flour in the form of cakes mixed with oil. This offering then must be added to the cakes of leavened bread and to the communion sacrifice with praise. One of the cakes of this offering must be presented as an offering to Yahweh. It will revert to the priest who pours out the blood of the communion sacrifice. The meat of the victim will be eaten on the day the offering is made. Nothing may be left until next morning. Party time! I found it interesting on how they added oil to all the bread and this and that, the wafers and the griddle on the and the um, let's see, the wafers and the cereal and the bread and the oil, all of that. I wonder what the significance is of that. I don't really add oil to when I make bread. I don't add oil to it at all unless I make a pie crust. I wonder what that is all about. Smells better when it gets burnt or eaten. I don't know. Votive or voluntary sacrifices. If the victim is offered as a votive or a voluntary sacrifice, it must be eaten on the day it is offered, and the remainder may be eaten on the following day. But on the third day, whatever is left of the meat of the victim must be burnt. Oh. Interesting. One would have to be more in tune with the culture now of the Israelites, or, on how that was kind of handed down. This was all kind of new to them as well, in some ways. Did they do all this also already somewhat beforehand, just not kind of more centered on Yahweh, on God? I'm not sure. Don't know. General rules. If any of the meat of a victim offered as a communion sacrifice is eaten on the third day, the person who has offered it will not be acceptable, and will receive no credit for it. It will count as rotten meat, and the person who eat it will bear the consequences of the guilt. Get sick. Meat that has touched anything unclean cannot be eaten. It must be burnt. We're going to get to that. Find out what that is all about. Anyone clean may eat the meat, but anyone unclean who eats the meat of a communion sacrifice offered to Yahweh will be outlawed from his people. Clean, unclean. Well, we'll find out what that is. For right now, we have to just go with it. Furthermore, if anyone touches anything unclean, human or animal, or any foul thing, and then eats the meat of a communion sacrifice offered to Yahweh, that individual will be outlawed from his people. How will they know? They could stop. Say, don't do that. You're going to have to leave. How? How do they know? Why wouldn't they stop someone from doing that? Or maybe they did. Yahweh spoke to Moses and said, okay, then you have to know how are they clean and unclean. What is that? Okay, we're going to get to that, Daniela. I know, but you want to know now. Yahweh spoke to Moses and said, speak to the Israelites and say, you may not eat the fat of ox, sheep, or goat. The fat of an animal that has died a natural death or been savaged by beasts may be used for any other purpose, but you are not to eat it. Yeah, that's kind of a given. That should be a given still today. Anyone who eats the fat of an animal offered as food burnt for Yahweh will be outlawed from his people. Wherever you live, you will never eat blood, whether it be of bird or a beast. Anyone who eats any blood will be outlawed from his people. Oh, Swiss people are in trouble then. If they'd have lived at that time. I don't know. Man, many places in the world, blood sausage, blood pudding, that's mighty good. Well, again, may have had just something to do with that foundation of this is what you do, this is what you don't do, right? Yes? The priest's portion. Yahweh spoke to Moses and said, speak to the Israelites and say, anyone who offers Yahweh a communion sacrifice must bring him part of his sacrifice as an offering. he must bring the food to be burnt for Yahweh. That is to say, the fat adhering to the four quarters with his own hands. He will bring it, and also the four quarters with which he will make the gesture of offering before Yahweh. The priest will then burn the fat on the altar, and the four quarters will revert to Aaron and his descendants. Four quarters. Oh, I don't know enough about. I guess I'm talking about the cow here, a bull or something. What are four quarters on a cow? I can't. Hind quarter. Legs? That's mighty good stuff. You will set aside the right thigh from your communion sacrifice and give it to the priest. The right thigh will be the portion of the descendant of Aaron who offers the blood and fat of the communion sacrifice. For I have deprived the Israelites of the four-quarter offered and the thigh presented in their communion sacrifices, and given them to the priest Aaron and his descendants. This is a perpetual law for the Israelites. I guess it took up a lot of time to take care of that tent of meeting and all that and this and that and, doing all the work. So I guess Aaron didn't have any way to, well, what were the rest of his descendants doing? Nothing? Well, in any case, looks like that was just an offering back to Aaron as the priest and his descendants. Well, I was really amazed to see. It was the first time here in the United States, and I got here when I was 20. The first time that I understood a bumper sticker that said musicians should have day jobs. Right? Yes? Okay. I thought, wow, that's kind of cruel. Why would anybody say something like that? Right? Yes? I mean, musicians, in order to get as good as they do, it takes a lot of practice, right? Yes? Would one say that about people who play sports, who have to practice a lot, and this, that? They usually don't have it. And to go to the Olympics and all that, as far as I know, they don't have any other jobs besides getting good at what they are good at in their sport, right? Yes? So I thought, wow, that's a real cruel. Why single the musicians out, right? Yeah. As if, they have all the time in the world to also go to work while they're practicing, going to shows, this and that, I don't know what, right? Yes? And the one thing that came to my mind right away was, well, we could have one for priests too, right? Priests should have day jobs. Well, they're busy too, right? I know of priests here. They're not just preparing for Sunday service. They go to people's homes and they help with problems or just go and visit sick people. They go to the hospital and are with people there, and they do all kinds of things, right? We don't know about that someone that is there for the spiritual health for people does, right? Yes? Yeah. So again, I was like, wow, I kind of didn't understand that. But as I said, right away, it came to my mind, I said, well, why don't we have one for priests too then, right? Yes? It's kind of unfair that, and for maybe other people as well. I don't know. What else? Just saying, right? Who came up with that one, and why would people put a bumper sticker like that on the back of their car? Huh? How mean is that? Huh? Not thinking. Huh? Yes? Okay. Well, anyway. So there it is. I mean, who knows? The Aaron's descendants may have helped with all kinds of things, taking down the tent every time they moved on again, making sure everything stays real clean, got the wood for the fire, this and that, right? Yes, might have been a full-time job for his whole family, right? Yes, and his descendants, a full-time job. Huh? Yeah, okay. Sounds like it. I mean, it really does. It's kind of complicated to do all that. Probably took half a day to get all the meat ready and the fat off, and just to be exact. It's not. I don't know. Sounds like it to me. All right. So here we are. The conclusion. Such was the portion of Aaron and his descendants in the food burnt for offering. The day he presented them to Yahweh for them to become his priests. This was what Yahweh ordered the Israelites to give them on the day they were anointed, a perpetual law for all their descendants. Such was the ritual for burnt offering, cereal offering, sacrifice for sin, sacrifice of reparation, investiture sacrifice, and communion sacrifice, which Yahweh laid down for Moses on Mount Sinai, the day he ordered the Israelites to make their offerings to Yahweh in the desert of Sinai. All right, then that's the end of 7. The next one will be the investiture of the priests. Investiture. Interesting word. 7. All about restoring. Restore, 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 and that doesn't just happen overnight. That's for sure. I catch myself thinking about things I don't want to think about. I really don't. Had it done. And the one thing I like even less is when somehow I'm made to think in a certain way, okay? I'm sure that at that time, if the Israelites, Aaron being chosen to do what he's doing, was there some jealousy among the other Israelites that he was the one chosen to do all that? Would they have liked to have that job? Maybe, maybe not. What was it like? And I guess we're going to get further into all the things that as a human being you shouldn't be doing. So we're kind of ahead of why all these sacrifices of animals and this and that and grain and was necessary, or at that time was a way to lay that foundation to what? To follow God, right? Yes? Start to obey God. Can you follow instructions, right? Yeah. Can you? A lot of things, if people were to read the instructions of a new tool or appliance or, right, and really sit there for just 30 minutes and read through, they would have a better idea about the machine, about, or anything for that matter, right? Yes? Yeah? But how many of us don't do that when it comes down to it, right? How many? Not reading the instructions. I saw a good one a long time ago where there was a car, and that car had a couple of million miles on it or something, 2.5 million miles. An old car. And can you even do that? How's that possible? And the one that I had that lasted 250,000 miles on it, and then it blew the head gaskets. Yeah, I think that's what they are. Just got too old. It's a great car though. And this one was just, so people ask him, says, how is this car still running? And he says, I read the instructions on how to keep it running. Right? Yeah. I read the instruction manual. And he did exactly, right? And had a car that had these gazillion miles on it and was still running. Ah, interesting. Well, anyway, so there it is. Yeah. So before that, I wonder, were people just kind of wild about things? You know what I mean? Kind of wild and unrestrained and I don't know why it was so important, right, to for the Israelites, for to God, for God to give Moses all these instructions. Now we know why he was up there. Surely not just for the Ten Commandments that it took 40 days and 40 nights, right? But, oh, and then another 40 days and another 40 nights, right? So there was more that went with it. All these instructions, right? Yes. I wonder how he kept that. I guess he wrote all that down too somehow. I wonder, did he come down with more scrolls besides just the 2 tablets? He must have. How what else would he keep all that in his mind? I can't quite see that. So is that where we're getting some of this information from? That he actually did come down with more than just the tablets? Well, I see sometimes. I'm coming. My potato is done. I see sometimes new discoveries of scrolls. Oh, we found another scroll, from the old times, kind of biblical scroll. This I'm going, oh, really? Oh, I'm going to go and check that out. What does it say? This is what I want to know, right? What does it say? And you hardly get what it says. It's like, are you teasing me here? I want to know what it says. Exactly what it says, right? You found something new. More to add to the Bible? Or what? Yeah. And what the main thing I want to know is, what does it say? What does the scroll say? What's on it? Right? Sometimes they're not complete enough, so well, then how do you know it's a scroll? How do you know it's according to something to the Bible? Okay, just saying. I think that's another thing too. We need to stick with the truth. And maybe these sacrifices, this and that foundation is to stick with the truth. Right? Yes? Well, anyway, it's a difficult thing these days to stick with the truth, right? You can hardly, it doesn't matter where it's at. It's difficult to know anymore. Okay, did I just get the truth? Was that really what happened? Or, again, whose agenda is it? Right? Yes? So there it is. Well, anyway, that's what I have to share this morning. I got to go and finish up my calzones. My dough is rising right there on the stove, on our wood stove. And I'll make this a little later. And my husband made some sauerkraut. Yes, so that's sitting up on top of on the mantle. And it looks like it's doing good. Sitting there and crowding. Is that cool? Yes. God's love, blessing always. May He protect you, and I will talk to you another time.